is so that, as was stated up front at the very beginning of the meeting, that everybody can feel respected and heard and safe in their city council. There's always some number of people who believe that those rules don't apply to them, and I'm sorry that that's the case. I'd prefer to be in meeting, but we now have the ability to go virtual when we need to, and that's what we're doing. So we'll continue with public testimony, but I want to remind people that now that we are virtual, if people stray off topic or they want to drop the F-bomb or whatever else, we'll just cut you off. We're asking you to be respectful of the work of the commission. They've now stayed an extra hour as a result of this disruption. They have their own lives that they'd like to get back to. So I really ask quite emphatically that people please be respectful of this public process. With that, Keelan, go ahead and call the next individual.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up, we have Noah Foley Benning. They were going to join us online. I believe they've left the meeting. We'll go on to Sophia Arnaout. Sophia, I don't see Sophia anymore. Let's go on to Jesse Presley Grusin. They left Isabel Thomas. Debbie Iona. Debbie, are you?
I see Debbie.
There we go. Okay. Debbie, you're muted.
Debbie, if you're on a phone, oh, there you are. We see you.
It took me a minute to juggle all the little things here. Now I'm here. I'm Debbie Iona, one of the members of the Police Accountability Commission, and I'm here today in support of the PAC's unanimous recommendation for an October 29th end date. October 29th is a date set by the court order associated with the addendum to the settlement agreement. Council created confusion by setting a second end date for June 9th. PAC members have been working diligently. We meet 2 nights a week and do additional work outside the meetings. There is a strong interest in producing a well-designed proposal so that the city's new oversight board will start off on a solid foundation. A June end date will make that extremely difficult and may result in an incomplete proposal or reduce opportunities for engagement with city council and the public. The city has a reputation for community involvement, but holding unrealistic expectations of people volunteering on city boards and commissions creates barriers to participation. I have been a regular observer at many city committees over the last 25 years, and I've never seen one that held meetings as often as the PAC. It is hard to understand how the city can consider holding this volunteer accountability commission to a higher standard than it requires of itself. As an example, the city was obliged to hire an academic dean for the training division within 150 days of posting the position. A year has gone by without an offer being made. The DOJ has demonstrated enormous patience in regards to the city's performance. I encourage City Council to give the PAC similar consideration. Thank you so much.
Okay, next up, I think we've had a number of people leave, but I just want to double check. Jax Volkov, Sage Pagnazzi. Is Marie Landrigan in Lovejoy? I think she was planning to be in person. And then finally, Lo Goldberg. Okay, Mayor, that completes testimony.
Is there anybody else in Lovejoy who wanted to testify that did not hear their name called? Is there anybody there? Is there anybody online who signed up to testify but your name was not called? Okay, very good. Colleagues, that completes public testimony. Any further questions or discussions? And if not, I entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Ryan moves. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Rubio seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Keelan, please call the roll.
Rubio,
First, I want to thank all the commissioners from the commission who have been working really hard on this very big task for us. I also want to thank Samir and the staff of the Community Safety Division and also the great facilitation team who's been working tirelessly to staff and support this work. Regarding the timeline, if the additional time is needed to produce a quality inclusive proposal, I believe that, and I support the additional time to get this right. And I also underscore the urgency of need, which I know you are all very focused on as well. And I know those things can sometimes seem in conflict with each other, but I know that you're holding both those things together as people who are thoughtfully engaged in this work. I also want to lift up the words of Commissioner Hardesty that we heard back in December, and we all know that she took leadership to create this transformational work. But it really has helped at least me to really focus and ground me when I look at this work. And she was very clear about the charge and the focus. And she said that you're going to have to answer, what does it look like for a police officer to go through the system? What does it look like for a community member to go through the system? And why is it better than what we have today? And that's pretty clear and very simple. It's not simple, but it's clear. So when I think about this, I'll very much look forward to the full proposal and to see how your thoughts on that as we hear the full thing. I also want to lift up, I appreciate the shared leadership model and the shared capacity practices that you all talked about. And I will look forward to a proposal that's really reflective of all the different voices and lived experiences of the members. And if there was, in fact, opportunity for space and engagement needed to ensure that the process itself was equitable and inclusive. And it sounds to me that that is your practice. So that's really great to hear. So again, just thank you to each commissioner for your very thoughtful work, for the dedicated time. Thank you, Samir, for your support and leadership. I have a lot of admiration for the lift that you are all making on behalf of all our Portland communities. So for these reasons, I vote aye.
Ryan,
Yes, thank you very much, outstanding volunteers. I really do appreciate your hard work, and your reports are always very thorough. And it seems like we really have been seeing a lot of you lately, and it really just shows how difficult this has been, and how elegant you've been at just staying focused. I really do appreciate that. I know that, and I'm also really impressed that you really caught up to the timeline, and that was today's discussion. Was about timeline, and so I've heard that. I will keep in conversation with all of you about that, especially you, Samir. I know I think I'm on schedule to come back to your committee in April. I know we've been trying to get on the schedule with you again, and so I look forward to that. I can't tell you, Samir, and you have another FTE working with you, how impressed I am with how you're moving this along. We do have to get this right. Commissioner Rubio, you were wise to bring up that we must have a better product than we had when we started. And everything I'm listening to indicates that we're making that progress. So thank you for your service to our city. I look forward to being in dialogue with all of you about this process. And mostly I want to make sure the council also has time to wrestle with this. It's very important when we do these community reports that we have an opportunity to also engage at the end, because I've had a couple examples where it feels really rushed at the end, and I want to make sure that we have a chance to do dialogue as well. Anyway, we have a lot of pressures coming at us from many different directions. Keep remembering it's 82%. Keep embracing what that means, and anyway, I'm just really thrilled with the work that you're doing and very, very supportive. And I just want to end with the sacrifice that you're making to your loved ones by putting in so much time as in your service to Portland. Thank you very much for that. I accept this report. Aye.
Gonzalez,
I just want to thank the commissioners for your good work here, committee members, and for your patience today. important work that sometimes feels like is been put on the back burner by charter reform, and want to keep your work at forefront and center and keep it pushing forward. So thanks so much for your report. I vote aye.
Wheeler,
I thought this was an excellent report. Really well done. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank the commissioners, the degree to which you've taken this seriously, the degree to which you have, with each report, provided more and more detail. It's clear to me you're considering all sides of every one of these issues, and it's exemplary from my perspective. So I just want to personally applaud you. I also want to apologize. I want to apologize that there were people who did not want to talk about the report, who used this as an opportunity to try and change the channel to something else. And you deserved more respect than that. And so I apologize on behalf of those who sought to disrupt the work of this commission and the work of this council. I think you're doing an excellent job. I've heard two requests, if I heard you correctly, and you can always correct me later. I've heard that staff support is an issue or a potential issue that we need to talk about. And certainly I've heard the question around timing, and I'll pledge to go back and circle with my team, my staff, the public safety folks, and others to discuss that with you about what makes the most sense. But I've heard your request loudly and clearly, and I appreciate the way you framed it. Happy to vote aye. The report is accepted. Thank you for your terrific work. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next item, back to the regular agenda. It's a second reading, item number 179.
amend vehicles and traffic code and direct the Portland Bureau of Transportation to adopt administrative rules to create a process for the installation of electric vehicle charges in the public right of way.
Colleagues, this is a second reading. We've already heard a presentation and had opportunity for public testimony. Is there any further business on this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll, Keelan.
Rubio,
I want to thank Commissioner Maps and the PBOT staff for all the time and energy they put into this important project. And I also appreciate how PBOT's project and how we all recently passed the right-of-way complement that I'm sorry, tongue-tied, that it complements the EV Ready Code project that BPS staff worked on recently that was passed by council. And together, the BPS projects and the PBOT project really will help ensure that more Portlanders will have access to EV charging. And as we know, transportation electrification, especially the need to increase access to public charging, has been identified in many policies, including the climate emergency work plan as a goal. So to that end, I also want to just point out that our two bureaus, PBOT and PBS, our BPS, have been working closely together on decarbonization projects. And so I'd like to thank that team, as well as thank the BPS team, Ingrid, Phil, Sandra, and Patricia, and also all of the council offices who have been part of this work. So I'm happy to vote aye.
Ryan,
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Maps and the Bureau of Transportation for answering some of my questions last week. I really appreciate this ordinance. It's definitely another step towards electrification, which reduces carbon emissions. We do need to incentivize more affordability for this type of infrastructure on our residents and users. And we must look at the right-of-way and the bigger picture as one of our city's largest assets. The tensions between adding more to the right-of-way, making sure that we have bigger tree canopy, are all the challenges that we have to face as we keep moving forward. I will vote in support of this item and want us to remember that we have more and more discussions to have on the bigger and longer term. I vote aye.
Gonzalez,
I vote aye.
Wheeler,
Great work. Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you, everybody who worked so hard on this. Next item is a 4/5 item, item number 180.
authorize the chief administrative officer or designee to negotiate and execute one or more lease agreements to temporarily relocate a portion of City Fleet Stanton Yard operations during the Oregon Department of Transportation I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project.
Colleagues, City Fleet's base of operations is located at the North Portland Kirby Albina campus, including 3 acres of parking lot space, which we lease from ODOT. Fleet needs to relocate operations temporarily due to ODOT's I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project, which is slated to begin later this year. The item authorizes the Chief Administrative Officer or designee to execute agreements to secure appropriate space and facilities for relocation. Facilities Property Program Manager Pauline Goebel and Vehicle Services Manager Mike Roy are here to present the item and answer any questions that you may have. Welcome.
Thank you. And Mike actually had to depart due to the delay in the meeting. So for the record, my name is Maddie Sauter. I oversee City Fleet. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Pauline's audio. So as
I had it on mute. I'm sorry. I
no
had mine
problem.
on mute.
I can take it, Pauline. So as noted, City Fleet, I think you've all been to the Kirby Garage. It's a large campus located in North Portland near Legacy Emmanuel. We have a couple of vehicle operations there and a large parking lot associated with that. ODOT is expanding I-5 and consequently we are losing a large body of parking that's affiliated with work that we do there. And so we are losing those lots for 6 years. And so we immediately needed to find new parking and an industrial building to move an entire operation to, not the whole operation, but just a portion of the operation. And we're lucky enough to find very quickly a site up at Swan Island that we could move vehicle processing and about 3 acres of parking to. So if we are able to secure this lease, which we have to have an ordinance to do, we will begin moving in April and the entire operation has to be relocated by September. Thus, we are seeking council approval.
Very good. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions at this juncture? Seeing none, do we have public testimony, Keelan?
Mayor, I do have a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry. Yeah, Commissioner Gonzalez, go ahead.
Can you, I'm totally supportive of this. I just want to be clear, but I have some longer term questions. Is a portion of this actually under I-5 or is this is this the parking area that's under I-5?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of parking actually that will ultimately be affected. So it's both us and PBOT who will ultimately be affected. PBOT's section of the parking is the piece under I-5. Actually, all of it is under I-5. PBOT's section is called the South Lot, and ODOT determined after initial communications that that section of it is not needed for another 2 years. So PBOT is getting a little bit of grace in terms of finding relocation for that portion of the parking. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to solve for that. But yeah, all of this is parking that's currently underneath that section of I-5 and a portion of the Fremont Bridge.
But the majority of that's actually is actually PBOT parking, and that's not impacted by what's before us today.
Pauline can speak to that better than I can.
There may be some PBOT's property that is affected by this. They are looking at it internally. We have been in close communications with Dave McEldowney the entire time, actually regarding this notification from ODOT for the leases, because the lease that we have with ODOT for our space also includes space for PBOT. So they have been, they know that we're coming to council today, and I think they're looking internally on what they want to do or how they can replicate what they're going to be missing. So Dave McEldowney definitely will be, if he needs to come to us for support, he knows that he can do that, and we'll be there to support him.
I appreciate it. And this is a note to my colleagues. I visited this in November, December timeframe. And again, I'm totally supportive of what we're doing in this ordinance here, or this authorization. But the long-term parking needs for PBOT down there, there are some real seismic concerns that have gone on for years, and just want to call that out here. That is not long-term sustainable by any stretch of the imagination. So just a note to my colleagues, we'll table that for another day, but that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else any questions at this juncture? Do we have public testimony, Keelan? I assume not.
Yeah, no one signed up there.
Okay, very good. Please call the roll. This is a 4/5 item.
Rubio,
Thanks for the presentation on this, and I totally understand the urgency, and happy to vote aye.
Ryan,
Yeah, also thanks for coming with a solution. It's not easy to have to relocate a lot of space to another space that's really close. It's really nearby. So it's great that you found space at Swan Island. I was really delighted to hear that part of this presentation. Good work. I vote aye.
Gonzalez,
Vote aye.
Wheeler.
I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, back to the consent